Well, welcome level 2. This is our second week on our paper strips, and this week what we're going to do is we're going to do rows 3 and rows 4. Last week I talked about how you do the purple paper strips as well as these little bitty paper strips and also the yellow paper strips. This probably looks a little bit different from what you saw last week. I did layer a bit more on the yellow. The yellow just requires a whole lot more layering than the other colors that you guys are going to be using. So if you look, this is about finished, but I do want to go back and show you guys some things that I did on different colors and values and also some of the reflective aspects of this piece. So I'm going to do this first video on the blue, and then I'll do another video on the red strip right here. So the main thing to tell you guys is to just make sure that you are layering. Make sure that before you layer your actual colors, you are truly adding a layer of cream or white before you get started. It makes the process a whole lot quicker when you do that, and it also makes your colors a lot more richer as you work. So this is a relatively darker area. This is extremely dark, but although this is relatively dark, it's kind of a medium dark, I did add a little bit of the cream. So as you can see, and hopefully you can see this, the colors that I have, basically I've got most of the blues that you guys have, but the main blue that we're going to be using is ultramarine blue. I also have a light cerulean blue, and then I also have a true blue right here. The other colors, yes, I put them in, they're secondary, but these are the three main colors that we're going to be using. So if you look at this, I've got a base tone of my cream, and I'm going to add a little bit of this true blue right here. The actual color of the paper strip is not this, but it has an undertone of this. So like I said last week, just challenge yourself to find the undertone of what you're doing first, and then you could add the base color, and then you can move on from there. So I have the undertone here, and I'm going to add just a little bit of this ultramarine blue. And it's the same as last week. You know, you have to layer things like a lasagna, so you may have to go back to your true blue as you go. And then if you see that you need to lighten it a little bit too, you could add your other blue. I may add the light cerulean in some spots. Okay, so in this case, I'm going back just a little bit with the original blue, the true blue. And I'm just going to brighten things just a little bit in some spots. It gets a little bit darker as you come to this edge a bit. There's a tiny cast shadow. Also too, before you get started, just make sure that your pencils are good and sharpened. It's a step that I think makes a huge difference too. It saves you time in the end as well, but you know, just the quality of what you're doing is going to be a lot better if you sharpen your pencils. So I'm going to add the lighter blue, this light cerulean blue. I'm going to add that a little bit to my highlights. You probably see this little part is light, and that's what I have originally on there. If it is not light enough, you can actually add white to it. White does help. It does tend to dull the colors, but you can always add a color on top of the white if you need to. In this case, I don't think I need white. I did add some right here. You can see this is extremely bright. So I've got the, what is this, cerulean blue, and I also have the white mixed together. And I also did the same thing right here. So you have some really bright points. One thing too that I would really encourage you to do is, obviously you're looking at your photographs, but you're going to need to just take your lights and your darks, and I would really exaggerate them. These should glow when you look at this. It should almost look like a painting. It should be, your application should be heavy like a painting. And it should be extremely thick as you do your highlighted areas. So we're going to move on to this darker part. Now I did add a base tone of my cream here, but this part is very, very dark. So I'm not going to add any kind of base layer of white or cream. I'm going to see how that goes. If I need to add just a little bit of something else to it, I may add something like the light cerulean blue or something like that. I do see a reflection in all of your shadows. Usually there's a reflection around an edge that's extremely dark. So look for that. Sometimes there's a reflection right here in the central area. You might have a reflection of something else next to it. So look for those things. It should not be just a flat dark. You should have something else happening here. This is not really as heavy as this. You probably cannot see from here, but part of my paper, part of my black is actually showing through here. Now, if this does not get dark enough for you, one thing that you can do is actually add either the black, or you could add the indigo blue to what you have. I may add just a little bit of black in some of the really darker areas, but you really don't need much of anything, because really with this project you are encouraged to use your paper as the foundation for the dark. So I am going to go into this just a little hair, and this is like we talked about last week, it's very, very light application, and this is that light cerulean blue, and this is for that reflective area of your cast shadow. So I've got just a little bit, and if you go a little bit too extreme with that, just go into it with your medium blue, that aquamarine. I think it's aquamarine. Let's see. Oh, ultramarine blue. Okay, so you have a little bit of that. Now, one thing to look for, and I know you cannot see what I'm looking at, but this strip right here is green. So what may happen is some of this green, and I do kind of see a little bit of this, after you color your next strip, what you need to do is look at this color and see if any of that color is reflecting here. So I'm going to get into that a little bit with this. So we've got this red strip that's intersecting this. Now especially this is a medium range shadow, and you can see this is a line of a dark shadow. In this medium range shadow, you do actually have a reflection of a cooler version of this red. This is a magenta. And so what's going to happen is, although you've got a lot of warms here, because this is reflective on a cool object, you're going to have this cool looking red reflected on here. And so I'm going to add just a teeny bit of this to my medium reflection. You see it more there, but you see a little bit of it in the dark reflection. And I know I told y'all last week, when you do these things, it does help to unify. If you introduce a color that's here to here, it is going to help to unify things, and you know, vice versa. You'll introduce a little bit of blue that's here to say some of these shadows here. So that's the main thing to really look at on your value that you're working with. And hopefully if you took a photo with your phone, you can take your phone and zoom in on some of that as well. I will go into this just a little bit. I don't know if you can see let's see, I may use this green. This is the true green. You may see a little bit of that. I see that especially in some of my mid-range darker values right here, just because it overlays directly that. So you will indeed have light reflections as you're working. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will cut this video off, but I do want to tell you I will be doing another video on the red application. Please feel free to send me a message if you have any questions on anything that you're doing. The main thing I would tell you is don't wait until the last minute. This does take some time with a layering process, and just to get a complete grade, you've got to make sure that you actually have values covering your paper. It's obvious that you observed it and that sort of thing. But I just appreciate your hard work, and I hope y'all have a good day, and I will show you the next video in just a minute.